Okay, so something that I'm working on with my students and with my own golf swing is understanding the importance of how my shoulder plane affects the path of my club. So as an example, usually on average with like TrackMan data, I'm looking at my club path being about 2 to 3 degrees to the left, and I'm leaving my face about 1 to 2 degrees open. So I usually create a little bit of a pull cut, and that's just a very common ball flight and something that I've learned to play with and that I actually quite like. The thing is, every now and then that can kind of open up to 3 to 4 degrees, maybe 5 degrees left with my path, and then a face that starts to open almost 4 to 5 degrees as well. And then we get some horrific misses where I can miss it hard left and I can miss it flare cut right as well. So what I've been noticing with my setup is, particularly after a break over winter, is that if I'm not thinking about it, my left shoulder is usually a little bit behind my right. So already that I have dictated that the path of the club is going to move left through impact just based on my shoulders at setup. Okay, so the thing that I'm mindful of right now, based on that TrackMan data, okay, is getting my sternum feeling like it's a little bit more behind the golf ball, so it's pointing towards the club head rather than at the ball, because of how this affects my shoulder plane. And then I'm using my alignment stick as well to check these things to make sure that I am not open with my shoulders and producing more of a left bias with my club path. Okay, the other thing that I'm doing as well, based on, again, having a tendency to open the face, is I am slightly strengthening the top grip. So I'm making sure that I can see 2 knuckles, as opposed to sometimes I get quite weak and you can only see 1 knuckle. I'm not changing the bottom hand, however, because this has the most influence on how much the club is going to rotate. And given that I'm only talking a couple of degrees, I don't really need to mess around with that. So part of my routine right now when I'm playing is I'm standing behind the ball, I'm lining myself up, but as I'm doing that, I'm checking that my left hand, I can see 2 knuckles, it's a little bit stronger, and then I'll take and put my right hand on. So this is gonna help square the face a little bit. And then I take my setup, and again, so for me, I've been finding if I kind of set up and I drop the club at the midline of my body, naturally that sets my shoulders a little bit more square. For this being a 6-iron, when the ball's forward, I tend to move my hands forward and that can move my shoulder. So I'm just being mindful of squaring up my shoulders, having slightly stronger hand on the top, and then swinging from there.